Bert is a reporter, and Bert now is digging around, and there was the $8 million in local investments. And
this is like bananas.
Okay, and so there is this LLC that she has formed.
There's like a bunch of them.
But is there a real? But there's a guy.
Yeah,
that's on all the LLCs.
A guy who's on all of them. It's just the whole way the thing is set up is strange, and like you wonder if there's. I mean, look, I know the way some of this stuff works, and I mean, this like feels to me like there's cash that like would be subject to his will that are in his accounts and everything, and this, it just looks like. Would this be moving cash into assets that only she has control? I mean, it's kind of like
sad. But there's
sketchy.
You were telling me, and I've heard this other places, that there is a man that is on listed in like a lot of these documents, almost all of them.
Yeah, there's the same name that's on all of them. It's
a it's a
Bill
guy.
Talked about it. Yeah,
there's another guy that is part of all of this as well.
Which I mean, like maybe that's on the level. I don't know. You know what I mean?
I don't know. How would I? It's on the level. They're LLCs. They're limited liability companies, and of course it's on the level. They're real estate purchases that happen. They know you're posted. Didn't have to dig far. They just went on realestate.com.
Yeah,
I mean they found the records.
It's all public information. Which like the whole thing is just, I don't know. Like you would hope that like. You would hope that somebody is advising him.
Well, that's not happening. So, but but I do, because we don't have a lot of time, and I can do this without getting you in trouble. You talk to a lot of people, and there have been, and you knew him. There have been. I'll do this in a way. Don't worry. There have been theories that maybe Bill's life was deliberately. He got such a long leash. Maybe his life was a deliberately unorganized, chaotic situation because it was a brilliant way to keep power. But that was one theory. So the other theory is that he's an idiot. And that is correct.
That's Fred's words, not mine.
But not unfounded.
But there is like so. I do think to some degree, the people I know who have worked for Bill said that there was. It was like a level of disorganization to everything that only he knew how the whole thing ran, and it consistently stayed on the tracks, and they won over and over and over again to the point where it's like, okay, like, so somehow like he knows how this whole operation is held together, and no one else does, and it's impossible for anybody else to run it the way that he runs it. It's like a lot of geniuses are that way, right?
Sure, yeah. They all often do what he's doing.
So, but I said this for the last 10 years, which I've thought a lot about this the last couple of weeks as this story has really started to catch fire. And there's part of it like that I think one of the reasons why he wanted to finish his career in New England was because he knew that operation was almost running itself at the end. And he had such good knowledge over the way everything in the organization was set up. He never had to do that over again. And I think he had knowledge of how hard it would be to recreate what he had here with people like Bears, with people that he trusted that were inside Ernie Adams, that were inside the organization. And maybe those people were a little more important to holding all of the disorganization together than we realize.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Remember the Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes.
And how they had that very thin banker, that woman. She was very manly. Mm-hmm. Without that banker, the Clampetts are in big trouble because they have they've uncovered oil, but they're rubes.
Yeah.
And they would be susceptible to many, many scams. And how often did the banker step in and get them from Granny from getting into some kind of moonshine business? And now that it's like the banker's not there anymore, and now it's just the Clampetts running around with their money. And when you give a brain dead hillbilly all that money, I got to tell you, it's not long for their pocket. Isn't that right, Bert?
I mean,
solid point, Fred. Bert, your thoughts?
I mean, just the handling of CBS News.
Yeah, well,
That's-
we've been over that, and
But that's
it's
the one though. That's the one though where it's like somebody had to be there to tell Bill, okay, you're not dealing with like a local news outlet that needs you because the football team is so important anymore. You are dealing with an outlet that has experience working with war-torn countries and dictators. They aren't going to be intimidated by a guy with a visor and a whistle. And it's just the reality of it. Like, somebody needed to be there to tell him that. Instead,
right. No, here's the deal. It's a magazine, and I'll tell you this. When I found out, it even got weirder when I found out it was a half-hour interview. Usually when they do pieces on people, it's like a 2-day thing.
Yeah.
Again, I'll bring the Gorman thing up as to what I know. They followed Gorman around, like the city, like went to his house,
Yep.
like talked about his war
Do you think
career,
they would
like
follow
went
him
and
around
talked
campus,
to people,
right?
talked to people from his life. This Bill thing was a half an hour that they were thrown in at the end of the show. They just were like, whatever, fine. Maybe it was like the last thing they were putting into the show. It was like you know how TV works. It was the last thing. It was the
E-block.
least. It was the E-block. It was the least important thing they were doing. They spent Dan, a half an hour for an interview on a national show. They weren't taking that seriously. And the idea that they somehow blew that up and destroyed it in such a way is almost impossible. And it's not hyperbole. It should be studied.
It's
honestly,
literally
if I had a
turning-
communications course in college, I would study that and go, here is the worst way I've ever seen something handled in my entire life.
I mean, I made this point yesterday. These media blitzes for books are not uncommon. You write a book, you go and do a bunch of interviews, and you sit down with people. I cannot think of one memorable moment from a book tour media blitz. I couldn't come up with one when I thought about it yesterday. Can you think of anything anybody ever said? In one of
There's
those?
guys like Bret Easton Ellis and stuff that like were bad boy writers and stuff, but that was kind of like what they were trying to manufacture. But I know what you're saying.
Legitimately took something that was
Nothing. That was an E-block segment about a boring book that no one's going to buy.
And that's normally where Bill would be, where Bears would be in the back and wouldn't say anything. Bill and Bill.
How about this?
With Bears, this is Bill's wheelhouse.
Yes,
saying
and
nothing.
Bill would handle himself.
Hey.
Right, by saying nothing.
How did you meet your girlfriend? Oh, it's a fun story. This never happened. They were both on a first class flight to Palm Beach. She's a college kid flying first class to Palm Beach. Why is she going to Palm Beach and why she's in first class? Her parents don't have any money. Interesting. That's how they met. Okay, so
For those who are listening, Fred is giving the okay sign.
but very quickly because we have to break. Very quickly, we have to break. Here's how you answer the question: how did you guys meet? Oh, we met a few years ago. We just hit it off. We were having this great conversation. We exchanged information. I didn't think it would go anywhere, but you know what? We stayed in contact and fell in love. Boom. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was very difficult for me to do. That was a 10-second answer. Bert, it's always a pleasure, sir.
All right,
Thank you
thanks,
so
guys.
much for the
Good to
time.
see you, Bert.
We'll be right back.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.